Welcome back to Mind Your Biz. My name is Seth, and in today's privacy chat, I have the first-time pleasure of doing an interview with this team. I did get a chance to go to a phenomenal dinner party with the Verus team in Austin at last year's. I think it was, gosh darn it, it was in Austin, Texas. I remember that it was the CoinDesk event called Consensus. Yes, it was a great event that they threw there. Very hospitable, and what they're working on is very interesting. So I have with me two members of the team to discuss privacy and, of course, solutions that Verus is working on. Gentlemen, welcome to Mind Your Biz.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. For the benefit of the Mind Your Biz audience, let's get some introductions. And Mike, if you kick it off, who are you? What's your background? And when did you start with Verus?
Sure. So just for a quick clarification, Verus is a community project. That means that anyone who would be on the quote team is just someone from the world who came and said, we're going to work on this and we're going to help make this real. It's interesting, and we're going to, I'm sure, just cover this. But I helped to found Verus. I was walking along the street after I developed a machine learning language model for a large company to recognize emails. So it would read emails and it would combine it with other information, and it would figure out what the email was about, general, classification of subject and things like that, who might have written it, other things about it. And it would do all that in about 250 microseconds. That was, a little over 5 years ago. And once I had built that, I realized that, with all that was happening, we're headed for this world with, it's going to be really hard to figure out what's true and what's not true. That was years ago when that was clear. And the idea was, how do you create a system? And this is not about, it was not about a get rich quick or, we can make a coin or any of that. It was, how do you create a system that could help you get training data from the world, but still know that the data is coming from provable sources or other sources that aren't provable, and really be able to sort all of this out at scale of the world. So my background, I was, I started in building systems back in the early 80s. I built multitasking environments that beat Windows and InfoWorld reviews, and eventually found my way. I had started some companies, built some BIOSes and low-level operating system things in combination of assembly language or C, or and I had released some open software. And so I found my way to Microsoft, ended up being the dev lead for kernel for Windows 95, and started the Java platform at Microsoft by starting to write their version of the Java VM along with some other people. And I started the .NET platform. I was one of two recognized founders. I started the platform side, and another individual was working on the tools side at the time. And it's always been this goal of mine to make computers work for people, not the other way around. So when I realized that I could process an email in 250 microseconds, and I could figure out all this, and it wasn't me, it was learning how to do this. It was kind of an alarm bell for me. We need a system like this. So that's when I got some people together. We decided that this was going to be a fair launch. We could not make a company out of this. Being part of something that was, designed to scale to the world and be an open rent-free system that people could take and use and not have to pay anyone to use. That was the plan. That's what we made. And we needed privacy. I know that this series that you've got is focused on privacy. And that was one of the critical aspects, because if we're going to have people using machine learning at scale, and we're going to have, transactions, financial transactions open, so much is going to be able to be understood about you as an individual. I mean, I was the technical fellow for the Microsoft advertising platform. We used to know more about most people back then than they might have known about themselves. And the fact is that they didn't really have a clue about how much we actually understood about each individual using the internet. Now it's, I'm sure, orders of magnitude more knowledge about each of us online. So anyways,
Sure.
that was the inception. The plan was to take zero knowledge proofs. We used the Zcash and at the time Komodo, forked zero knowledge proof technology. We've upgraded that since. We've got
apologies for the interruption. That was before sapling or
that
post
was
sapling?
we started before sapling, and then we were actually the first chain to upgrade to sapling, and we pushed all of the sapling upgrades back into the Komodo ecosystem, which enabled Pirate and these other coins to really leverage that technology, with the sapling advances. And so that's been at the beginning, and we've kept that as part of our plan. And we did a vision paper a couple months after the launch of mainnet, actually, which described this concept of confidential, verifiable, but transparent polls and elections. And the idea is that we described machine learning integrating with these provable, confidential, verifiable, and transparent polls. The idea is that if you provide a way for people to interact with the system and you give them absolutely zero motivation to lie through confidentiality, this is a model for creating honest data from the world of people. And we've since had people join the community, companies join the community, but one particular identity service that is doing basically identity as a service. And it's a way of bridging this completely anonymous or private kind of blockchain with zero knowledge technology to the world of centralized systems, KYC in this. This company is leveraging the Verus ID technology, which we'll talk about later, and I'll stop pretty quickly, to be able to prove your ID in a way that would allow you to go to a company that requires KYC and say, I'm KYC'd through this company. They don't leverage any of my data. They don't sell any of my data. They don't disclose any of my data unless the specific reason for law enforcement requires it from them. Aside from that, I'm KYC'd with them. You don't need my data. If you have any law enforcement request, you can get it from them. Other than that, I don't need my data part of the sales and the personal data marketplace. And so basically our whole entire ethos and what we've done as we built is, a fair launch. There was no pre-mine. There was no ICO. There were no initial investors. Founders actually mined and staked their coins just like everybody else with a pre-announcement to the world. And then us founders, we donated coins to a foundation that was intended. So we donated our fairly mined and staked coins. And a lot of people have since donated to that foundation. But the foundation is private. It's not a part of the public thing. And all it has done for the last 5 years is use all of its funds. It's actually started with about 4 million. It's got quite a lot less now. And it's been basically making those funds available to the community. That's when we were in Austin at Consensus. People donated to the foundation, and then the foundation basically sponsored these things through this kind of fundraising and donation process. And that's the way we've done things for over 5 years now. And so Biz is actually, he is in the ecosystem, and he's one of the key developers in the ecosystem. But I'm an individual of a community. I'm the lead developer of the community because that's it's like an honor to be the lead developer of the community. If someone comes along and they're going to do more, and I'm happy to talk to them about having that role. It doesn't matter to me as much as we're building something that's super important for the world. It was designed with AI in mind. It's really interesting that we are, I believe, weeks away from the final release of everything we've described in our vision paper. And now's the time more than any that we need this technology as we see AGI emerging. That's me. That's the background. That's how I got started in Verus. I'll stop and turn it over to Biz because he's going to have a lot of things, I think, to say about what they're doing and him and what Chips is. Thanks.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. So I'm essentially lead blockchain developer for Chips. My background is I founded a fork of Monero called Blur back in June 2018. How I got networked with Komodo and Mike is that I was approached by James Lee, the founder of Komodo. And he basically asked me, can you bridge compatibility between Monero's code base and our DPoW system? So I started work on that in about April 2019. That's still underway. I'm doing a lot of different things, so it's been kind of hard to find time to push that across the finish line. But
yeah, can I just briefly for disambiguation, John, or just so people know, John Lee is more commonly known as JL777. Yes.
Yeah, James Lee, but yes, correct.
James, thank you. I apologize. I only know him as JL777, which is why I got thrown there for just a moment. But yeah, sorry. Go on.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I spent a few years kind of bridging compatibility. We've notarized to Komodo's mainnet a couple times from a Blur test network. From there, I wanted to get more familiar with the system, became a notary node operator at Komodo. I still hold that position. I'll be running again this year for next year. And through that network, I was approached by Satinder Gruel. He's one of the Komodo guys, one of the primary motors behind, chips still being a project, and migrating to Verus's ecosystem. So how I got networked with Mike was essentially, hey, we have this interesting case of chips, which, is a blockchain that's already reached maximum total supply. Therefore, in its, current form, mining was largely altruistic. Block rewards have reduced to zero, and basically the only people keeping the network moving, which is a legacy Bitcoin code base, are doing so out of goodwill, which is not a great model, right? So we also haven't had price discovery occur. And between the roadblocks we were seeing on the technical side, those two factors, Verus seemed like a really unique solution for us. In taking a snapshot of the existing chain and migrating that over to Verus, we not only gain an entirely new fee economy and additional chain security that comes from that, merge mining. We also have, price discovery that can take place through Verus's liquidity pools and cross-chain bridges, gateway converters, that kind of thing. So miners will actually, get revenues they would not be seeing outside of just fees being paid in chips. And it gives us, access to all of these DeFi tools, privacy features, all this stuff that, if you're playing decentralized poker games, which is what chips is, what our current mission is to do, absolutely completely critical things. So yeah, we have, since you have that up here, we'll just talk about it. Essentially, chips started off as cryptographic exercise for JL777 and SG777. SG is the primary motor behind the game engine. So I oversee the blockchain development, the chain migration over to Verus. I've contributed some code back up to Verus to allow us 10-second block times. Those are fully configurable and have allowed us to have pretty high velocity gaming. Each turn takes, around 10 seconds. And we were able to abandon our original dependence on both WebSockets and Lightning Network using Verus's tooling. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see some of the GUI front end. There's just some things about chips. Yeah, so there's our gaming interface. That's still under heavy development, but two-way games of poker are at least working presently.
Nice. I know within the sorry for the interruption. Within the NFT community, there are several trait groups among NFT collectors that are gambling focused, right? So and that are poker focused. So it turns out, and I wouldn't have guessed this 2 years ago. I wouldn't have foreseen that this was a trend, right, or a meta within the crypto and investing scene. But apparently, there's NFT collectors who hold regular poker campaigns, and they do so based on trait groups of NFTs they've collected. And cool. What stronger narrative could there be for them than to say, like, yeah, no, we contribute back to the ecosystem by using a fully decentralized and permissionless and provably fair ecosystem, like what you're building here.
Right. So, absolutely.
I didn't know about that. That's actually really cool. And one thing interesting is that with the Ethereum bridge to Verus, it's been running now for quite some time on the testnet, and it'll be rolled out with the PBAS release that I mentioned is just right around the corner. And you can send NFTs from Verus to Ethereum and from Ethereum to Verus and to any PBAS chain, which is public blockchains as a service. and chips is a PBaaS chain. And so basically, people could, Biz, I don't know if you have thought about this at all, but people could send, their CryptoPunks, whatever NFTs they have, they can send them over to the Verus ecosystem, including to the chips chain. So, maybe there'd be a later version that would allow people to play with their NFTs as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Something we're looking to expand to eventually, and this is a longer term thing, but using Verus IDs to allow people to actually monetize, their own player identity. And they can launch tokens. They can do all these different things with leveraging Verus IDs, much the same way that, we have tokens on the chips blockchain called cashiers, players, things like that, that are used for namespaces, for bucketing of information, publishing information so that subscribers can receive that information. The whole game flow is based around this Verus ID feature where people can publish their information to what's called a content multi-map on their ID. And that's available on the blockchain the moment it hits the mempool. So it allows for a lot of, highly interactive gaming on Verus. It's pretty interesting.
Nice. Yeah, that's amazing. So, and I apologize for the interruption again. Like it's crazy. You mentioned there's this confluence of just cool ideas that have been fighting to get free over the last couple of years. And I just think it's interesting that right now you happen to be nearing this, this release candidate that would completely fit the needs of apparently what I didn't realize were thousands of NFT holders. So you got this highly interested group that would love to stay in a decentralized economy. And here you were building. I mean, I know you were building in plain sight. I just wasn't paying attention yet.
Well, that's the thing, is that we're building and we're not out there. Like, we have a large community, and people think when people go out and they talk about Verus, they're shilling something, but it's just a large community of people. And the number of people that you actually see on Twitter, posting things, it's people from the community. There's no one paid to shill or anything like that. It's just people from the community who really believe in what we're building. So yeah, we've been building and not really out there, because I don't have time to go out and describe everything. Just like, in the early days of Bitcoin, Satoshi didn't have time to explain it to certain people who have started systems since. But it's kind of the same. We're building. I mean, we're I've been waking up for 5 years and building. And I think Biz, I've seen him, day and night at times, just building away. That's kind of
Sure. And that's
you'll
that's why there's an open mic here. That's why when it comes to building towards privacy, or when it comes to building bare minimum, if you're contributing significantly to the FOSS side of the ecosystem, because let's be real, if and I apologize, I'm going to take you at your word. I don't mean to doubt, but take you at your word, because I haven't verified yet that you basically you were able to make the sapling update to Zcash something that the rest of the Komodo ecosystem could use, right?
Why would you not? Wait. Can you verify that? Because
and this is not me casting doubt. It's just me saying that when there's a contribution to the free and open source movement, and new functionality is pushed into the ecosystem, that's precisely why I do these sessions, is because I want to reward good behavior. That's what I'm saying. We need more of it. We definitely need people building significant privacy updates to existing code bases, allowing for better peer-to-peer technology with lower metadata leakage and lower data leakage, bare minimum, to preserve some anonymity, and then also cryptography, right? We do need to tighten up our systems. To just take that a little bit further, you're right. So we pushed that technology back, but I think it's much, much bigger that, chips can come along and say, here's some infrastructure that we could use. Biz added the variable block time, and that just went back into the Verus ecosystem. So when people come and they work on this ecosystem, they do what you're describing. And this ecosystem enables anyone, any project, anyone, and people will figure it out. And the people who figured it out earlier, like chips, are going to benefit to come and launch a chain or launch currencies with zero knowledge privacy support, with all of the DeFi, MEV resistant DeFi, by the way. Like, we literally have a protocol that solves MEV. It's the only one I know about, and we could talk about that, but we won't have time. So we could do it a different day or something, or
or offline. I would love to have people understand.
No, I appreciate that too, because
so
it's one of those things where we could do a roundtable on it too. There's so many groups that need to be discussing MEV because it's well past miner extractable value, right? Like the narratives have shifted because finally we acknowledge that the problem is way deeper than mining.
And so when somebody starts a chain, they don't pay us for doing that. They launch it. There are fees on the blockchain that goes to miners and stakers on the blockchain. The chain launches, it merge mines and leverages all the security and hash power of the main network. Plus it's got the 50% proof of stake that was there from the beginning. And that chain is now its own community or chain. It's self-sustaining. Its bridge is self-sustaining. It can communicate with the rest of the crypto ecosystem. And so that's fully open source software. That's not rent seeking. That's actually what we need as humans to be able to build out this infrastructure for the world without having some random person thinking that, oh, this is my chance to take all the money. Because that's just not how it's going to work, I believe.
Sure. Well, let me ask you just to draw a comparison to the IBC ecosystem, which has become fertile ground for some interesting projects to start growing. But you talk to like the Cosmos maximalists because it's a thing now. And they say, well, nope, IBC is the only way because of the atomic swaps that are built in as a primitive. They've had an issue with tokenomics, right? And the gas fee marketplace for the Atom token itself. Cosmos, right? They
why
engineered themselves out of a job.
How it doesn't make I prefer not to probably focus on a negative of another project, but what I'll do is I can say my perspective of this. So
when I meant it, I didn't mean to point anything negative. Only to ask, in terms of the ways that maybe Verus has solved that problem for your ecosystem. Why would a developer, when they look at the atomic swaps as a primitive in that ecosystem, and maybe that's an attractive thing for them, why would they consider that Verus might be a better choice for them?
Well, see, here's the thing. Verus, we just don't talk about it because atomic swaps are like not much. We have atomic swaps built into the protocol, and we have for a long time. Like for a few years, we've had a marketplace on chain that includes the ability to just in a decentralized way buy and sell IDs and anything connected to them. And on the test net, which has been out and in release candidate mode now for a while, you can do that with all currencies. And it actually leverages one of the original things that Satoshi put into Bitcoin. It's just built. People have had this ability to start building stuff like this for so long. And instead they followed a smart, genius, young guy who said, let's just not do any of it. Let's just make a Turing machine over a blockchain and let the world solve all our problems. And it's like, let's just build all the infrastructure that runs the internet on DOS. It's kind of the same idea on, an operating system with no security. And that's what the world is kind of plowing forward on because everybody thinks that you have to move fast, break things, and take all the money.
Not with people's savings. Please don't move fast and break things. Yeah.
And so what we've been building, we've been growing, and we've been growing steadily. And I'm not here to predict any financial things or any of that stuff, but I mean, we've been getting stronger and stronger. We had just announced that the Irish government is working with Dell and VMware with the Verus protocol and one of the companies in the Verus community, Archetype, also known as Value. That's the company with the ID technology I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. And they're doing a rollout of a sustainable energy currency that isn't just like carbon credits where that it was produced, or there's actually a lot of greenwashing and fraud going on there, but it's not just like carbon credits in the sense that it comes from some sustainable production. We're tracking the production from all the way from, whether it's wind farm or nuclear or whatever it happens to be that I'm not on the policy side at all. I've just been helping with the technology. They can produce currencies from these sustainably produced sources. They can prove by metering and regulation, they can prove that was consumed by, say, for example, a Dell data center. And the currency that's represented by that is exactly produced and consumed. They also have the ability to track just produced and where it was burned. And the coolest thing about it, and this is a guy in our community, Consilience. He's also the person who is behind that Archetype company. And he brought this concept, which they're doing, which is if you have, they don't have great storage for sustainable energy. So you've got gigawatt hours of energy per day that is going to be wasted.
Yeah. Well, you're talking to like, so
exactly.
my content stream all started with proof of work. So I'm very familiar with opportunities for proof of work with stranded energy.
So because Verus is still FPGA resistant, and the best miners are cell phones that are, low cost, low power cell phones, because the algorithm, it's not that it's just never been implemented by an FPGA. There are FPGA implementations. It's that I designed it specifically in assembly language with instructions focused on the ASICs that exist in modern chips today, so that you can't beat it with an FPGA. And so you could, it's just not the best device to mine. And so when you think about all this extra power, and you think about data centers that are leveraging this technology to gain, green currencies and things like that for their investors or for whatever else, they can also use that to mine all of the thousands of blockchain networks on the PBAS network across the world, and turn that into a baseline price for that energy, even if it's not used for other purposes. So it's really just the whole model kind of comes together in a circular economy for energy. And they're doing it with the Irish government, Dell, VMware, and Archetype. And so, yeah, it's not just, about making a token with tokenomics. So if you look at atomic swaps, we have them on the chain. It is like one of the least powerful things that we have on the network. So if we talked about them like other teams do, saying they're the greatest thing, we would just not be able to talk about all the things that are way, way more important. And so, how does
I think the only reason that it's become a trend in the last couple of years has been because of DeFi summer, the first DeFi summer, right? And Ethereum benefiting most from the first DeFi summer.
Well, when everybody's ready to just throw things out there to lose money, and it's going to lose grandpa's money or grandma's money, or the people who just got into crypto, and they don't worry about that before releasing. We've actually been testing what we have on testnet now for about 3 years. We've been running DeFi with MEV resistance for more than a couple of years, but we're not focused on just let's take all the money. We're focused on making this something that will last, just like Bitcoin lasted, but solve the problems that people need to solve. That's why, as far as I know, we really are the only solution for MEV in the protocol.
Watching people in the Verus ecosystem merge mine 6 chains at the same time, or as many as they want to, at the same time be the engine behind processing DeFi transactions on a UTXO code base where 50% of the coins are generated by proof of stake and the other 50% proof of work has been really cool. I don't know that exists anywhere else in crypto.
Yeah, no,
I don't think it does.
It is very unique. It's a very special thing. I mean, I try not to use that word too often, but it is a very special thing. And it is sort of the hope of most people who aren't even interested in what you're doing yet. Like I've been calling for more projects. It's an ecumenical call to just consider merge mining more of the tentpole projects, right? More the blue chips, so to speak.
Well, this is all dynamic and built in. So the new projects that start will be able to help drive their launch by merge mining other projects and merge mining Verus. And so by starting on this, if you start a project, you can get investment and you can start a project that way, or you could start a fair launch project. However you start, it's actually an ecosystem that helps support you from the beginning. It doesn't just extract rent from you from the beginning. So if you're able to launch a project in this ecosystem, the ecosystem itself helps your project to grow. It's the way it should be. And as far as I know, there is no other blockchain technology, and I believe I can confidently say this, that is permissionless, that scales to the world, that's actually decentralized, and that has a hope to provide a provable foundation for machine learning data from humans in any foreseeable future. I only know of one.
Okay, got it. Well, this is not their interview half hour, so we won't bring them up, I guess. But I think I'm intrigued. Of course, Mike, this is our first time actually talking. I should ask for the record before we go any deeper into the conversation for the benefit of the audience. Just let me briefly ask: did I ask for a bounty in order to set up this interview?
No,
You did not.
Did you offer one?
We did not.
Did we discuss any kind of like compensation to have this discussion?
Me.
We talked about lack of compensation. That's it.
Yeah. But actually, I was thinking, and this is, do you have you have Mine Your Biz ID?
On Verus, I'm pretty sure I don't. No.
We gotta make sure you should have that.
Yeah, we got to squatter after this interview.
Now that I've actually, no, this isn't live.
Now I am self-interested. Okay, I'll just admit I'm gonna be squatting on this interview until I go and secure that.
No, I think you didn't ask for anything ahead of time. We didn't offer anything ahead of time, but I think it would really be fair as just a welcome to the community for us, for someone to get you a Mine Your Biz ID. So the first thing I'm going to do after this interview is go see about getting that for you.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. You know, what's funny is that I've got a VerusCoin enamel coin, right? Physical enamel coin here, but I don't have any other like actual meaningful exposure to the ecosystem. That seems a little bit silly now that I say it out loud.
The mobile wallet, which is a multi-coin and multi-chain mobile wallet that was also fully open source. It is fully open source and was developed by the community and et cetera, et cetera. That's going to be on the stores hopefully within a week or so. And it's available already. It's been available actually for some years for Android and iOS on TestFlight, but it's going to be available on the main stores in about a week or so.
Awesome. Can I ask, as far as package management, is that available? Is there a repository available for F-Droid? For those of us who are de-Googled,
we don't have a repository for F-Droid. We've talked about it. If anyone makes, I mean, this is kind of the model, the community development model is, we're working on this PBAS release. So it's pretty much all hands that are available in the community on deck on release, getting this PBAS release done. And we're hoping, like I said, that we're looking at a week or, in that range kind of time frame for the mainnet release for all that. F-Droid is definitely something that's interesting and we would want to do it. But some of these things are probably going to come after the PBAS release, or someone could come along and, give a PR.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for this disambiguation there. I work with the other kinds of PRs on a regular basis. Great. That's amazing. So looking forward to that.
There was one thing I wanted to add to your last question. If I could, it will only take a second.
Sure.
You asked about tokenomics. So we're not a token. Verus is not a token. There are plenty of models for tokenomics on the chain for tokens that people can create, because you can create an unlimited number of tokens on the chain. And if you do create one and send it over to Ethereum, it automatically just pops out as an ERC20 with its supply 100% controlled in a decentralized way by the Verus protocol. So you don't have to if you wanted to launch Ethereum currencies and tokens, you could probably do it on Verus easier than on Ethereum and less expensively. But
how many okay, oh my gosh, it's another rabbit hole. How many standards are we talking about here?
Your
721As, your 1155s.
You can do the same thing with NFTs. So any ID, you can send it over to Ethereum and it pops out as an ERC 721 NFT automatically. I mean, these are part of the bridges. So every single ERC20 can be sent over to Verus, and every single Verus currency or any currency on any chain connected to Verus can be sent over to Ethereum. It just works that way, and that's permissionless. But the other thing about it, and you could call it coinomics, but it's just good protocol design. All the DeFi and IDs and everything else on any of the PBAS chains, every DeFi liquidity basket needs to have the native currency in it. So on chips, they're going to have DeFi baskets. They can have up to 10 different currencies, but one of those currencies is going to be chips. Okay. When you convert from one currency to another, your maximum fee of conversion when you're going from one to another is 0.05%. So when you convert from one fee or from one currency to another, the fees of conversion, they go half to the liquidity providers, half purchase the native currency of the blockchain and pay it as fees. So it just converts automatically and pays it as fees. So if your blockchain is used, the miners and stakers will earn regardless of if you have block rewards. So this is kind of the point. There's something called a fee pool. And it's like everyone talks about, oh, Bitcoin is in trouble because it's running out of rewards. All they have to do is do what we did, and they can follow us. I'm happy to help them follow us.
Well, Ordinal's kind of changed the game there too in terms of use cases. There's some others who are figuring out that, like, oh yeah, OP return and OP check sig multi-sig, that there's more opportunity there, rather than there's been hidden opportunity there for 10 years.
You still have the greedy miner problem though. So you're right. Yeah. You first you have to figure out a model for a fee economy that works, that makes sense, that isn't just trying to take money from people. And then you need something like the Verus fee pool, where the way it works is we have a different model than other blockchains on how you take the fees as a miner or staker and what you can do with them. You capture all the fees in a block, whether it's ID registrations or DeFi conversions or transaction sends or any of these different things, NFT minting, whatever it happens to be. You take all those fees, all of them, and you put them into the fee pool, which is it's a number that it's actually just an aggregate fee pool that continues in perpetuity on the chain. And then you take 1/100th out for the current block. So there's no motivation for any miner or staker to rewind and take the fees that you got because you got so many fees in that block and the next one doesn't have them. Everybody just moves forward. All the motivation is about converging the chain, and yet you can make money based on activity on the chain. So it's just solving the problem. I don't think that there is a problem with tokenomics, coinomics, or any of that, because it's all self-sustaining. There's no company in the middle taking rent. There's no one extracting anything. And it's a circular economy designed that way. I don't know of a problem with the design on this.
Yeah, no, it's pretty great.
Tell me that's all.
Yeah, and there are definitely examples of other ecosystems where there are new problems cropping up every cycle, right? Every bull cycle. We just discover that there's some other problem because the incentive is either unpredictable or some new exploit becomes available or obvious for some kind of greedy behavior, whether it's greedy mining or it's some other behavior that's abusive, right? From the staking or the delegation or block ordering.
Yeah, and actually greedy mining, I think, generally comes from chunky fees. And, rather than like EIP 1559, the idea that, we're going to burn currencies because then we're going to make a super stable currency. The idea that you just destroy an economy that's growing in order to, I'm sorry. I think
I'm with you.
There are a lot of decisions being made in crypto that don't have much forward looking in them. And it's good to see that, we're getting recognized a little bit more. People are starting to notice, but by the time this is all available, I think it's still going to take most people by surprise.
Sure. Now I'm kind of curious in the Verus ecosystem or the Verus community, was there somebody that had that has expertise in economies, right? That who is like a professional economist, and not that has to be the measure, but I mean, what was kind of the guiding logic to come up with some of those decisions that you mentioned just a moment ago?
Well, so some of us have pretty deep backgrounds in a number of areas. Mine's more in the sciences and computer science and nanomaterials and all of these things, but it's really computer science. And I just took a detour to invent some nanomaterials. But and now I'm back in software. Cool. But cool. we have consilience. This is Nicholas Lyons, who's he was I think a VP at JP Morgan, but he was also one of the principals at a hedge fund, and he had brought in something like 92 billion in investments, but he's really been focused on economic models and really kind of a broader picture for years. Like we met in the early days of Verus, and he had gone around, he had talked to Roger Ver, he had talked to Joe Lubin, he had talked to a bunch of different people in the industry to try and figure out, is anybody taking crypto where it really needs to go from an economic perspective? And he, a mutual friend connected us, and he flew out from New York, which he tells me he never does. Just, almost instantly we met, and he decided this was the platform that actually was getting it right. And he's been in the community and contributing ever since. So we have, some like him, we have other people in the community who do have a strong background in economics. We have one person, I don't want to dox, because a lot of people in the community are just there, but we have one person who is, an ex lawyer from a large financial firm who's really focused on are these things fair? I mean, it's really interesting. He'll say he's not a developer, and he'll whip out blockchains with our protocol, and he'll start up currencies, and he'll do all this other stuff, but he's not a developer. He's got a legal background, and he's got, this other type of background. And he'll come up, in the past, he doesn't do it now, because as far as we know, we got it covered. But, he would ping me in the early days when it's like, okay, we're MEV resistant because we solve everything in parallel, and there is no front, there is no back. We do that. And this is the only blockchain that does that. Because I wrote the code to do that. I don't know of any other code that does that. And he says, okay, but if I'm mining and I want to front run somebody puts in $1 million order for something, could I just put my front run in my block and exclude everyone else so that it has to go into the next block? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's, inter-block, MEV, you could conceive of that. And then it started me thinking, and it's like, okay, I could do something about that, and now we have multi-block MEV resistant protocols. So, you can't even know that doing that is going to allow you to front run anybody. So, awesome. Yeah, so it's, we have people in the community, and we have people from all different walks of life, because we're not a company, we're a community, and people come and they'll poke at something. And we have a kind of an ethos where if somebody comes and they're just, a troll and rude, we don't really take a lot of time with them. If somebody,
there's not much time to spare for trolls and haters. Yeah.
But if somebody comes and they've got legitimate issues and they poke on something, like, we want people to do that. Find something wrong and come talk to us about it. We're open. We want to understand, if we can improve, because as we see it right now, this is the protocol that we want, not as people developing, as I want this for my family, I want this for everyone using crypto. We got privacy. We've got full decentralization and self-sovereignty. Nobody can take your funds. Nobody can take your data if you don't want them to.
Got it. Well, let's do this. Pardon the interruption. Let's do this in the remaining few minutes of today's session. Let's talk a little bit about VerusID, because this is one of the more visible aspects, that is sort of consumer facing. Let me bring up.
It's been on mainnet for 3 years.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. VerusID. Who's using it? Why would somebody come to this as on the consumer side?
Great question. So, all right, I'll give you a few things first. We have tens of thousands. I don't know the exact number registered on the chain, but they're all permissionless. And all the ones that are on the chain now are permissionless. It is possible with PBAS to create a permissioned ID namespace as an option. But on the current mainnet, the root IDs on any blockchain are the IDs with the broadest capabilities. They can launch currencies, they can launch other blockchains. And so these are the root IDs that are available now on mainnet. They've been available for a few years. When you get an ID, you have the ability to have data in your ID. You have the ability to have a zero knowledge endpoint for your ID, and you have the ability to register your ID with zero knowledge transactions that leak nothing about who registered the ID. You also have the ability to use a referral, which allows you to both reduce your price of registration on the blockchain, which goes to miners and stakers. And also, when you use a referral, there are 3 levels of referral. It basically, if I refer you, then if you refer someone else and that person refers someone else, the person that you referred gets 20 from the referral they had. You get 20 from the referral. I get 20 from the referral, and the rest goes to the miners and stakers on the blockchain. And there's no center, no company taking anything. And so these are options. When you launch a blockchain, you can say, I don't want referrals on my IDs on my blockchains, or you can say, I want 5 levels of referrals on my blockchain. And you can do the same when you're launching liquidity baskets, because liquidity baskets can also register IDs in PBAS. So Verus ID gives you this permissionless, fully self-sovereign way to create an identity that has a friendly name. Any name you choose, and it's a namespace. So you can have the name you choose as a root name, or you can have subnames dot name. Okay. Now you also have the ability in there to have a Z address for private transactions, holding private funds, receiving private messages, and you have a public friendly name. So if I want to send to a private address of, say, Biz's ID, I can say send currency, whatever I want to send, or I could use the GUI, but I can use a command. I can say send currency, from whatever ID I have, or maybe a wild card, to Biz at :private. And whatever his private ZK snark address is that's bound into his ID, it goes there and no one sees any metadata. It's just private transactions back and forth between IDs. But there's a lot more you can do, because IDs also have the ability to lock themselves. So none of the funds they control can be spent until they are unlocked, and you wait for a certain period of time.
Multi-sig capable as well.
They're multi-sig up to 13
Send currency
25.
command is cross-chain capable.
And you can have IDs that they appear on Ethereum as ERC 721s, and they appear on other PBAS blockchains as their ID. So you can have an ID that actually is across many different blockchains, the exact same ID with the exact same name and everything else, used on an unlimited number of blockchains. And here's a really interesting thing about it. So you got the ability to lock it, but you also have the 2 other authorities on it that are also IDs. You've got revocation and you've got recovery, and they're also all multi-sig. And revocation can't spend your funds, but it can revoke your ID. So you could give that one to a fraud detection company if you wanted to, and you're still safe. Recovery, all it can do is recover the ID. It's really pretty powerful, but it needs to be revoked before it can do anything, and it can't spend your funds either. Okay. So you could share your recovery among your friends. You could do every single thing that Ethereum is just realizing they might be able to do with the account model. We've been able to do, but we still don't think, like, when PBAS is on mainnet, we believe that's the time. We have time again now to go out and tell everybody about it. And that's when everyone's going to, I think, be quite surprised at what they need is already built. But the other thing about IDs, you can actually create the equivalent of an NFT token from an ID, but it's more than that. It's like a super token, which is an NFT. That's the thing that can pop out on Ethereum as an ERC 721. One token to rule all your IDs across all your chains, really. So you can send that token to any chain, because Verus is inherently cross-chain. You're never bound to a specific chain with any asset on the chain. So you can send that token to any chain, and you can send your ID to any chain. So now you put your ID on all these different chains, and you have different assets on those chains that are on that ID. Okay. You can actually, you could revoke your IDs on those chains, transfer that one token, and in one transaction, you can transfer ownership of all assets on all chains where that ID exists with one single transaction, guaranteed, foolproof, one transaction that basically made a transactional operation across every single chain where your ID exists. So those are a few reasons. And one last thing, every ID has its own built-in unlimited size database that has create, read, update, and delete operations as part of it, even though blockchains are immutable, and ours are too. So your ID itself, and this is what Biz was talking about, actually has the ability for you to store an unlimited amount of information bound into your ID, provable. So like Elon Musk was on Twitter one day and he said, oh, it's so great that they're meeting like 22,000 tweets per second. I did the math on that. If I wanted to do 22,000 tweets per second on the blockchain, yeah, it's a couple 100, 200 blockchains, not a big deal. Like, we literally don't have any limit on scale if you just use multiple chains for scale, and apps don't have to worry about cross-chain if all they care about data, because you can just look at every chain instantly on the data that someone put in. Anyways, those are IDs. Not really in a nutshell, but those are IDs.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like I know I'm going to need to do a second pass of all the documentation just to fully be able to internalize everything that you just mentioned about the Verus ID system, because it sounds like, I mean, it's so broad and so deep. It isn't just roadmapped either, but with so much that's in production right now.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah. And one other thing, the mobile wallet includes Verus ID login without passwords. So it's a fully cryptographically protected, secure 2FA login that already exists. We already have the protocol. It's already in the wallet. And we had someone who actually did a bridge to OAuth 2 and OpenID Connect, which eventually we'll make available as just open software as well. But using them really has the potential to just end passwords and make everything more secure in the process.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask, as far as hardware signing devices, is that part of the security paradigm for Verus ID and for all of the pardon the expression, but just managing accounts and managing managing all kinds of wallets and.
So if you don't have IDs, then I think hardware wallets are really important. If you do have it, so let me just give you an idea. So if we definitely have designs, and in fact, someone was making a hardware wallet, but we have things that we want in hardware wallets that go just beyond simple signing of a transaction. Okay. You can certainly store your keys in a hardware wallet. And what I typically do if I have IDs that I really want to secure is I put the funds on the ID, I lock the ID, I put the revocation on a steel wallet, and I stick it in cold storage. And so I have live funds that can stake and earn money for me, but they're as safe as cold stored funds. So I don't actually think, like, if you're generally using IDs, vault, locks, and things like that, I don't know that you get a whole lot more security with any of the existing hardware solutions, but people like them, and it's a kind of easy thing to understand. And it'd be nice. Right now,
I'm not a security expert. I just based on what I've read and kind of best practices in that domain from the people who I consider experts, they talk about having or something something you have, and something you are.
Ask every expert who tells you that about this, if they understand that Verus ID exists, because it's a technology that never existed before. And everyone who says that you need a hardware wallet, as far as I know, actually just doesn't understand it. Because my funds that are on my IDs, where I've got a steel wallet hidden away somewhere in safe, for example, you can't access those funds any more easily. In fact, there's no chance you could phish me with, a phishing ledger. You can't give me an upgrade. You can't do anything that's going to get me to. Sure,
but you're describing cold storage of any network. The use case you just laid out, though, Mike, is the same as cold storage for any network. For example, if I use
you're right. No, you're right.
Yeah, but what you just laid out is equivalent to me using wallet derivation software on an air-gapped computer and then imprinting a seed phrase onto a steel plate. Similar security.
But let me tell you what you can do. So I can still stake with all my funds. You can't do that with cold storage. I can actually prove my funds. I can unlock my funds for a few minutes. I can reset my private key every time I unlock. I can unlock for 1 minute. spend my funds, relock with a new key every time. That's safer than, I mean, that's as safe as cold storage, but I can still use my funds and I didn't need a hardware wallet. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I know that I know I need to do a little more digging into the documentation to start like really wrapping my head around it. This is the first exposure. So,
well, yeah, I understand.
But I'm hearing a bit of what I am picking a bit of what you're throwing down there, but there's a lot. Let's be very clear. There's a lot. So this is a first sort of sip for me, and y'all give me the fire hose.
All
but
we've been doing is building. We've been focusing on building. So yes, there's a lot. I know. Yeah,
it's phenomenal. So I think that concludes the amount of time that we can that we're gonna do in this episode. Mind your biz audience. If you want to hear more, then be loud in the comments. Yeah, Biz, go ahead.
Just as a developer, coming to Verus's ecosystem solves so many problems for us all at once. The amount of technical knowledge required to use their technology effectively is high, but join their community, come around, start building. You'll find a lot of helpful people, and suddenly the wall won't seem so big. So join up and contribute code to them. They'll help you out. Get involved.
Awesome. And Mind Your Biz community, if you want to hear more from these two gentlemen on a future episode here on Mind Your Biz, leave comments, be supportive, and then you tell us that this has been helpful for you. In the meantime, Biz, you that's the call to action is for developers to join in and help build more. Mike, any other calls to action or upcoming dates or events that the community should be aware of where support is needed, and in what ways?
Yeah, everything I've described is fully functional, fully operational. We are not aware of any issues with it, and it's running on testnet for people to come and develop with and use. What Biz said, I think that's true on the developer side, but I'd say one more thing. We have people developing Solidity and developing on Verus. I think anything that you might decide to develop as an application, and Biz, please correct me if I'm wrong, feel free, would likely be easier to build using Verus technology than if you were to write it or try it or attempt to write it in Solidity. I believe that's true.
I think for most cases that is, yes, definitely.
So I think the call to action would be, come to our Discord, try all this out. We do have non-programmers using this and being able to create currencies and being able to create blockchains, and people will help you do that. If you're a developer, if you're looking to make a crypto project, take a look at this first. You owe it to yourself. It's going to be good for you in the long run. And then watch for the PBAS mainnet release in the next week or two, I'd say. I don't know when this is actually going to be released, but look for that.
I've got a backlog of going on nearly a dozen interviews. So let me see if I can front burner this one and make it a little more urgent. I'll be in New York for NFT NYC. So maybe I just clear out all my backlog of content is what I do while I'm out of town. Just schedule all that. But it shouldn't be too long from the time of recording, which is for the benefit of the audience, early April. So,
all right.
Yeah, great. Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. You've been so generous in your explanations of the ecosystem to somebody who's had their very first exposure today. I think this has answered a lot of questions that people might have. Obviously, the most typical questions, you field them a lot, so very well covered there. Where can people find you and just talk to you individually? Are you active on Twitter, Telegram? What's best?
Biz, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm active on Discord and Telegram. I'm in Verus's Discord often, dialoguing. So pop in there and ping me and I'll be there, guaranteed.
And I'm on Twitter, but I'm like, on Twitter for a few minutes and then I'm not. And but on a daily basis, I'm in the Discord. I'm in the Verus Discord working away on a daily basis. Okay,
awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time. Again, Mind Your Biz community. Be loud in the comments. What'd you like? What'd you still have questions about? Did you join the Discord? Just be vocal, make comments, interact. This is the builder market, so this is when it matters the most. Gentlemen, thank you again. Can't wait to have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much.